So as you can see, the old Chevy has a few problems. It got in an accident in its previous life, car stuffed under the fender. It bent that axle shaft. Now this is a 03 3/4 ton. It's got the semi-float 8 lug 14 bolt. Now this is a 10.5 inch ring gear. It's got disc brakes. It's just a standard 3/4 ton axle. So I figured why not upgrade to the beefier full float 1 ton axle. This one here is a 14 bolt out of, I believe, an 02 2500 HD. We got a Yukon DuraGrip posi unit in there. Dana 342 ring and pinion. I don't do a whole lot of heavy towing, so figured I'd try to squeeze out as much mileage as I could out of this pig. Let's see, Powerstop brakes. I got powder coated calipers. Need to pull the bolts off of those. Stainless brake lines, got those from O'Reilly's. All of the braided hoses, I got the full kit, all 4 corners, and also here at the split for 80 bucks. Look up SStubes. Yukon Diff cover. Had to use a spacer there to use the factory bracket. A little ugly, but we're gonna get her thrown in there. What's currently in there is a 373. I think it was posi at one time. It's got 230,000 miles on it, so it's no longer posi. It's pretty garbage. Tired of spinning in the snow, and well, we're gonna get her fixed. So I'm gonna set this down. We're gonna get to pulling this old axle out, putting a new one in. Should be a good time. Alright, now, just to touch base real quick. You saw me put the electrical tape over the U-joint. That makes sure the caps just don't fall off. It's annoying. The needles fly everywhere. You gotta try to put the bearings back in. It's a pain in the ass. So just throw a quick round or two of tape on them. Now, I've been driving on this axle like this the entire time I've owned this truck, about 3 years. The biggest problem I have with it is it actually leaks a bunch of fluid. It's just destroyed the gasket inside of the, I'm sorry, the, just outside of the cup there, inside of the caliper. It's, you can see all the gunk, and it's just slinging fluid all around the tire. It's a mess. I always have soft brakes. Bleeding them does nothing. This kid just kind of rattle canned the calipers red. The original rotors that were on it, they actually had overspray on them too. You can see it on the spring. It's all bad. Could have just replaced the axle, the shaft itself. It's a C-clip rear end. I figured if I'm gonna have to tear into it and, you know, pull it apart, I'd rather just build something else that's stronger. So here we are. Let's see where I got the parts. I spoke to a gentleman at Drivetrain America. He gave me every bearing part number, every seal part number, everything that I needed for this axle. Now, all of their kits use Timken bearings and AAM seals, which I believe is the OE manufacturer of the 14 bolt for GM. So it's all good bearings, all good stuff. They ship out of Iowa, so they're pretty central, and their shipping is fast. I mean, they get it out the door quick. Even with everything that's been going on, I think I waited maybe 3 days for my bearings to get here. So the axle flange gaskets, those came from Summit. That's pretty much the only place reasonable that I could find them for under like 20 bucks. Got the tires off, about to drop the axle back down now. Gonna keep a little bit of tension on it, take these U-bolts off, drop the shocks, disconnect the emergency brakes and the cables, and then over there disconnect the line coming down to the split there. saw the little zip tie trick over there to hold the springs back, just wiggle it out. This one was really bad, it was in there. Once you get those dealt with, disconnect the brake line up here. Then we'll drop the U-bolts, then the whole axle will just drop out as an assembly. Also, the spots for the mounts are the same on the 3/4 ton and 1 ton axles. One will be over here on the side of the shock mount for this parking brake cable. And then the other one will be here and also on this clip right here. And that's where you saw I use that spacer if you're using like an aftermarket diff cover. So there's that. We're gonna go ahead and drop these U-bolts now, and then I'll put some pressure on this underneath with a jack first. Then once we get it unbolted, just slowly set her down. All right, now you can kind of see the bigger differences between these two. Full float, all of the weight goes on the hubs. That's why these axles are so much stronger. This one here, the axle is held in by a C-clip, whereas this one bolts into the hub. So all the axle shaft does in this is rotational force. It doesn't bear any weight, so that's why it's a full floating hub. Biggest difference is going to be the hubs and the pinion supports. A lot stronger, but we got her out of there. We're gonna go ahead and slide the new one in, and then it's pretty much everything backwards. I'm gonna have to throw the brakes on this real quick. Like I said, I have to seal the bolts off this axle, so let's get it. Now we're going to torque the U-bolts down, put the shocks back on, hook up the parking brake cables, and put the drive shaft back on. Now torquing these, I use a 1/2 inch Icon. These are actually really well rated. They're very accurate for the money. I think they're $100 a piece or so. But make sure that you actually loosen these all the way up. You don't want any tension on them when you put them away. Take care of your torque wrenches, they'll take care of you. These are torqued to 110 foot-pounds. You need to retorque them after about 3 or 4 days. I guess I'll run through them. The ring gear bolts are 120 foot-pounds. The actual side carrier bearing caps in there are 135. Let's see, these out here are 65 foot-pounds. Actually, no, these were 110. 110 foot-pounds. Wheels, the lug nuts go to 110. The pinion support bolts, 65 foot-pounds. To crush the pinion sleeve, they say about 300. I do it in the press. It's just a lot easier. Just barely start crushing that sleeve. Spring pad purchase are the same. Brakes are the same. I believe U-joints are the same. I'm about to find out. If they're not the same, then this is going to have to wait until tomorrow to move. But if it is different, then we'll just press the U-joint out and put in an adapted one. But we're going to get back at it. So far, been incredibly simple. It's nice, these axles are on the bottom of the leaf spring, not like some of the half-ton pickups where you'd actually want to drop the leaf spring from the back and then pull the axle out. If I jacked the truck up higher, I honestly could have left the tires on and just rolled the axle out from underneath it, put the tires on the new one, rolled it back under. Or if you have a lift, this would be incredibly simple. I will warn you, especially on these pickups, these Silverados, if they haven't been replaced, the brake lines are very fragile. The fittings like to stick onto the line instead of rotating freely. So when you go to take off that, you know, the union there, unless if you've done the rest of the brake lines, I would disconnect the hard lines down here at the axle and reuse that flex line. As long as it's not leaking, you'll save yourself a big headache there. So I'm gonna torque these down. Next I'll do shocks. Basically gonna work from the middle out. We should have her done here, and I think we've only been working on this maybe 2.5 hours, including the filming and eating pizza, all of our breaks in the middle. This is incredibly simple. Honestly, this is something you can do in your driveway pretty easily. It's a common axle. It's an easy upgrade, I think, and I think it's definitely worth it. Like I said, same width on the half-ton frame, so, you know, if you wanted to upgrade and throw 8-lug wheels on, or you want to lift it and throw on bigger tires, you don't want to wear out wheel bearings and have leaking axle seals after 6 months, and there's definitely pros to doing this. Most of these axles that you'll find will be equipped with a 410. You can check the RPO codes inside of the glove box on the sticker to see if it's got a locker or if it's an open diff. But keep in mind, with mileage, that's not really going to work as great. A brand new posi unit or a brand new limited slip, it's not gonna be the same as something with 230,000 miles on. So kind of keep your expectations realistic when you're going through the junkyard. You're gonna find some sloppy ones, you're gonna find some leaking ones. But if you're willing to throw a couple seals or a couple new bearings in it, if you play your cards right, you can actually make out on this upgrade pretty cheap. So. Super simple swap. Like I said, everything is the same width, everything bolts right up. The pinion depths are the same as far as how far the yoke comes out, so you won't have any drive shaft issues, won't have any shock issues. Everything mounts the same. So awesome upgrade. And here we are the next day. Done started the break-in procedure on the new axle. Of course, if you have one that's already been ran, no need. But drive it 20 minutes, let it cool down. Drive it 20 minutes, let it cool down. Do that 3 times, and then give her 500 miles without towing and no burnouts. Kind of sucks. Want to test out the posi, but that's part of the break-in. Super simple swap. Like I said, you could knock it out in 3 or 4 hours if you're starting with a complete axle. One that's already been ran, one that's already put together and been used. Super simple. I'll probably put a video up here in about 6 months and tell you if the swap is worth it or not once I put some weight on this and see how she rides. But so far so good.